Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I'll be talking about a relatively unknown threat actor that targets the hospitality and travel sector with a very streamlined and effective scam. So let's get right into it. So this is guest check-in, cybercriminals cash out, protecting payment data from phishing attacks. This research was done by the Intel 471 malware intelligence team. Specifically, Jorge Rodriguez and Nick Summerlin, that's me. Also special thanks to Suhail and Taisia. So this research was done by Intel 471. We're a team of malware researchers and reverse engineers that have been tracking malware activity together for about the past 5 years. To support our research, we built a custom malware C2 monitoring system and other systems for tasks such as proxy management, malware identification, malware config extraction, and a lot of other stuff. So before I get into it, I'd like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via BrightTalk at any time. And I'm going to reserve some time at the end of the presentation for answering those questions. So in summary, the threat actor we're talking about targets two distinct groups of people. The first is hotel employees. They're trying to obtain credentials for the Booking.com Partners portal. This is the portal that travel partners use to manage incoming reservations from Booking.com. So once they have access to the partner portal, the threat actors target the hotel customers. In the end, the threat actors are trying to trick hotel customers into giving up their credit card information. We discovered this activity in April of this year, but in looking back at the evidence, we found that the threat actors have been carrying out these campaigns since at least 2023. The focus of the presentation today is the latest round of malware-less campaigns, which started in the summer of 2023. So I'm going to take a look at the initial attack chain. This one used an info stealer malware to gain credentials from the victim computer. It's important to mention, though, that we've seen this threat actor adapt and refine their attack chain several times over the past year, and we expect them to continue to do that. In the first campaigns we saw, the threat actor began the attack by actually booking rooms at the target hotel. They would then receive a confirmation email and respond with their own email, trying to get the hotel employees to click on malicious attachments. We think that this attack chain was kind of like a proof of concept for the scam idea. It was really small in scale and it requires a lot of manual work. So eventually they moved to larger, more generic email campaigns with malicious attachments. We've seen them over the past year use several different malware strains to include MetaStealer, Agent Tesla, Luma Stealer, and several others. So the rest of this talk, I'm going to focus on the current attack chain. The current attack campaigns started roughly in June, and they contain no malware. The hotel employees are presented with a phishing lure that mimics the official Booking.com communications. From our perspective, we noticed that the threat actor dropped malware in favor of a more sophisticated and custom-built phishing kit. We can only speculate why, but it's likely that the threat actors found their malware approach was ineffective and didn't adequately address the multi-factor authentication protection that Booking has. In case you didn't know, Booking requires multi-factor authentication on their admin portal. Not using malware also offers other advantages because it provides defenders with fewer detection and prevention opportunities. So for the rest of this talk, I'm going to focus on this particular attack chain in detail. So these are the emails that are being received by hotel employees. The first thing that stood out to me when reviewing these emails is that they were only sent to hotels. Every spam email that we've analyzed went to a hotel of some sort, from boutique hotels on an island in Tahiti to very large multinational hotel groups and everything in between. The lures are not perfect, but they're quite convincing, and they make use of templating to add a high degree of variation. Let me take just a second to talk about email templating. It's a feature of spam bots and mailer programs that are used by cybercriminals to make their spam emails harder to block. So for example, this email starts out with, "We've gotten a guest complaint through our booking platform." but the word gotten is actually a templated variable. So other emails will say, we received a guest complaint, or we've obtained a guest complaint. And this variation makes it harder to write signatures for these emails. The current theme that they're using is this complaint theme, where they say that the booking has received a complaint about the hotel and that the hotel employee should click the link to view the complaint details. And that's going to bring me to their infrastructure. The first layer of infrastructure is a proxy layer. These proxies are made up of hacked WordPress and Joomla sites. And the purpose of the proxy layer is twofold. These redirectors hide the real infrastructure, making it harder to take down. The other feature is less obvious. So by having a large number of cheap redirectors, you can sort of defeat URL blocking. And the kind of URL blocking I'm referring to is Google Safe Browsing, which is built into Chrome and Firefox and enabled by default. Google Safe Browsing protects almost everyone because most browsers are Chrome-based or they're Firefox. So by having a large number of redirectors, anytime a URL is reported, it's only impacting a small number of people that received the overall campaign. Besides the link to the phishing site, we also have a tracking link in the email so that these guys can estimate how many people saw the campaign. The second layer is Prometheus TDS. TDS stands for Traffic Directional System. You can think of it as a filtration system. The TDS allows the users to filter the traffic coming in, filter out the traffic they don't want, such as traffic from automation systems or security researchers. TDSs like Prometheus are growing in popularity among cybercriminals these days. There's a lot of researchers out there these days, people like you and me on this call, and we just love ruining a cybercriminal's day. So these systems make it harder for us to access malicious links. So we may receive a malicious link notification from a potential victim, but then we're unable to get there because we don't match the profile that they're looking for. And you can see the kind of things that they're able to filter on. Things like operating system, country of origin, what browser you're using. And then there's other filtration techniques that are even more effective against researchers. Things like automatic proxy detection, like if you're coming from a Tor exit node, block that. If you're coming from a known VPN, block that. And it makes it really hard for researchers to investigate things like this. And this is probably one of the reasons why these guys are a bit under the radar. So the third layer of infrastructure is Cloudflare. If the incoming request passes all the Prometheus TDS checks, it's routed to the phishing kit, but that request has to go through Cloudflare first. Cloudflare protects the phishing kit from automated collection systems. Systems that are built by people like us to collect data on these kind of attacks. But we have to verify that we're a human to get there. This keeps us out and keeps these guys under the radar, so to speak. The other layer of protection is that it's a proxy layer. Another proxy layer, yet another one. The real phishing site is invisible to us. We don't know. Only Cloudflare knows where it's hosted. But there's another reason why Cloudflare is especially difficult for defenders. And that's because it hosts a lot of legitimate traffic as well. So defenders can't just block Cloudflare. Otherwise, the network users will complain that they can't get to sites that they normally can get to. It's sort of a safe haven for cybercriminals, and we see them abusing it a lot. Finally, if all those proxy layers are passed, the victim gets to the phishing kit. The phishing kit mimics the real booking partner site perfectly. It's just a carbon copy. Once the login credentials are received, the user is prompted to select a multi-factor authentication method. Once again, this is a required step for logging in. Two-factor authentication is required by booking for all of its users. The phishing kit then prompts the user for the auth token, and once the auth token is received, access is obtained. And all of this is handled automatically by the phishing kit. So now we get to the second stage, the second phase of the attack. This is the phase where the hotel guests are targeted, not the hotel employees. And this is also where, admittedly, our visibility is diminished. We don't know exactly what they're doing in the booking portal, but we have gathered enough evidence that we know that the threat actor can see which guests are booked with the hotel. And they also know which guests haven't arrived yet. So these hotel guests that are booked with the hotel but have not arrived yet will receive a message like the one shown on screen. Now you'll notice this is coming directly through the booking.com application, their mobile app. And the same message was also received via email, the same email that you've registered with booking.com. So it's very authentic from the user's point of view. And the user is also expecting to hand their credit card information over to a hotel. So in this particular email, the theme is that the user needs to verify their payment method. We think this is very effective. We think so because hotel guests are expected to provide their credit card information to the hotel, and because the source of the message is coming from an expected channel. And another bit of evidence to support that claim is that this threat actor over the past year has continuously poured a lot of time and effort into refining and strengthening their attack chain and streamlining things to scale up. So finally, when the victim clicks the link, they're routed to a phishing page where they can enter their credit card details. So the remainder of the talk, I'm going to try to focus on prevention and threat hunting. So as I stated previously, there's no malware in this attack chain. Not anymore. They've dropped the info stealer component. So our only vectors for prevention and detection are email and web traffic. And again, the emails are highly variable, so they're hard to detect, but there are some tells, and I'm going to go over those in the next section. So the phishing pages are one of the obvious vectors. They're hard to block, well, easy to block, but new infrastructure is being stood up constantly. We actually think that they've got some automation for this. And this automation is actually going to work against them, as you'll see in the coming slides. As far as prevention, it's very difficult for this kind of attack. No malware, strictly phishing. What we really think is that user education is probably the most effective means. So we would recommend that hotel employees that triage incoming emails should be made aware of this attack scheme. Like they should be looking very closely at any emails that are supposedly coming from booking.com, especially if it has to do with like a customer complaint or something like that. And also the usual anti-phishing recommendations apply. Like when you get an email, instead of clicking the link in the email to visit a login page, use a bookmark that you've saved in the browser. And make sure that when you're logging into any sort of portal, the user should look at the address bar and make sure that it matches what's expected. And finally, things like verifying that the email sender email address actually matches the sender that you expect. Those kind of things could go a long way against this kind of attack. All right, let's go on to threat hunting. So as I stated previously, web and email are the only vectors. So we're going to focus on that telemetry, starting with the web traffic. So there are some URLs and domains that we've made available here. But the best thing to do is probably to leverage the fact that they're using some automation for registering domain names. And the domain names follow a very simple pattern. This pattern is probably unique enough to search through web traffic and DNS logs. So if you have access to web traffic and DNS logs and you can search through with a regular expression, this has worked for us. And I assume if the threat hunter is searching through the relevant dates, which would be June, July, and August, if you were targeted by this threat, you might find success with this threat hunt query. The second vector is email. Now, again, the emails vary a lot, but there are some tells. It really depends on how much access you have to email telemetry that you're pulling in. The first and most obvious thing is that although the sender name often has booking in it, so you see in the examples there, booking support, booking info, booking partners, the senders themselves are compromised email accounts. They don't match booking at all, not even close. Anybody looking at it could see it immediately. But a lot of people don't look, or the email client hides it, or doesn't display it prominently so it's missed. But if you have this telemetry, it's a good tell that you can use. So if you can search for where sender name contains booking, but sender email does not have booking.com, that should bring up these emails if they're in your telemetry. The second tell is going to be looking at the email subject and the sender name again. So I collated all the emails that we received through August 2024, and I found that there were several keywords in the subject line that appeared more often than others. So I basically just did a frequency analysis, and I saw that things like complaint, urgent, immediate, feedback, these words popped up a lot. So whenever you can search for emails within the month of August that contain one of these keywords, and also if in the sender field it contains booking, these are emails you'd want to triage and see if they're actually matching the TTPs of this threat actor. And once again, these threat hunt queries should be time constrained to June, July, and August. We actually haven't seen a lot of activity in September yet. Maybe they're on vacation, we're not sure. But when you're focusing on the threat hunting, focus on June, July, and August. Anything prior to that, it could be that the TTPs are not matching up. So I'm going to close it out with a couple of remarks. This is an adversary that's finding a lot of success with this scam. They've invested heavily into making their infrastructure very robust. They're streamlining things, automating more and more with the phishing kit, and potentially also with victim notifications, although we don't have visibility into that. We also have noticed that they're looking for partners to help them grow their operation. They're adapting, and they're not showing any signs of slowing down. So we do assume that this is going to continue until someone puts a stop to it. Finally, I'd like to call out to anyone who's observed this activity and would like to participate in research with us. Maybe there's pieces of this attack chain that you're seeing that we don't, and perhaps we could work together to get a better understanding still of what they're doing, especially what happens with the payment credentials. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the questions. I know I've sped through it a little bit, but we do have a few questions. And the first one is, do we have evidence that they're targeting other platforms besides Booking? So no, we don't. We don't have any evidence that they're targeting other platforms. But I don't think that this is something that's unique to Booking. I mean, the type of attack. So there's other platforms like travel-related platforms. I'm thinking of things like Expedia, things like that, where this exact same scam would work just as well. I expect Booking was targeted because they're just really big. They have tons and tons of partners. They're global. Their reach is global. So it just happens to be that this is something that it's very effective targeting them because of their size. What is the threat actor behind these campaigns? Showing signs of SOC Ghoulish or Luma. So we're not sure about that either. We do have some information. We're not able to talk about it on a public forum like this. But if someone's interested in digging into that deeper with us, there's more information that we have that we can share in more of a closed setting. The use of Luma, so they did use Luma, but they also used a lot of other stealers. So I would not tie this to Luma, except for that they're one of many, many customers of Luma. SOC Ghoulish is an interesting one that I hadn't thought about. It's something that I would have to look back and review to see if there's anything that ties the two together. As I understand it, SOC Ghoulish is their sort of actions on objective are ransomware, if I'm not mistaken. So that's different. However, that doesn't preclude them from being involved in this. We know that some of the more successful and more veteran cyber criminal threat actor groups do a lot of stuff. They don't do just one thing. They have a lot of people working together, and they do a lot of different types of fraud. So that could be possible. What are they doing with the stolen credit cards? That's a big question mark for us. The volumes are probably not high enough for them to be reselling this to like dump shops. Just don't see that as being likely. When I think about it, I think it's probably reshipping. That would be my guess if I had to make a guess. Again, I don't know, but if I had to make a guess, I would go for reshipping. So for those that are not aware of the term, reshipping scams are when stolen credit cards are used to buy expensive stuff online, like iPhones and MacBooks and sniper rifles, like cameras, high-end cameras, just really like expensive things that you can buy online. These things are then shipped to a reshipping mule, someone who is unwittingly participating. They think that they've got like a legitimate job, although after a few weeks, they probably should know better. But essentially, these high-end items are purchased via stolen credit card information and shipped to the shipping mule, who lives usually in the same country where the credentials originate from. So if the credentials are stolen from Canada, then the reshipping mule has to be located in Canada. But then the reshipping mule gets that high-priced item and sends it to some other place. And eventually, some researchers at CSIS in Denmark did some research where they participated and they put like a GPS tracker in the package, and they followed the package all the way to like a warehouse in Russia, where it was that like tons of this stuff was coming in and they were basically selling it in bulk. So to me, that's something that would make sense because it's a low volume of credit cards, at least not high enough to be like reselling it to dump shops. But again, it could be a number of things. I really don't know. I think that's it for the questions. So I'm going to give it just one more second here. And then close it out. Thanks again for participating and joining us. We hope that this is something that you didn't know about before. And it brought some useful information. And if you do want to participate with us in this research to get more information or whatnot, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to cooperate with people who are in the industry. It's just we're very careful about revealing certain sensitive information in a public forum. So do reach out if you have any other questions. And thanks for joining us.